The first time I posted on LinkedIn, I really almost didn't do it. It was hard. It felt really hard. And that was 2 years ago. Now, I don't know if you're posting on LinkedIn or thinking about it but haven't because it feels really hard. Or maybe you're still in that, like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't because I don't know if it's my thing. This might resonate with you, what I'm going to share today. And I'm just going to tell a little bit about my journey and how I've navigated it. And I'm going to read you a LinkedIn post that I did. Today is Friday. It is May 23rd, 2025. I posted it on Monday, if I remember correctly. And it's about my journey through LinkedIn because when I first came here to LinkedIn, that's my primary platform. I wasn't exactly sure what I was building or what exactly I wanted to do. I had ideas. I had a passion. And, but I knew that getting on LinkedIn was going to be a good thing for me because it's kind of like your new version of a portfolio, of a resume. It's like a pre-interview, essentially. Even if you're not looking for a job, and maybe you're not looking for a job, maybe you're pretty secure in where your job is, but you're thinking, gosh, do I want to do some speaking roles? Do I want to go on some podcasts? It's a way of exploring what could be next, even if you don't know. I mean, maybe you're thinking about, I'd really like to be an advisor or maybe sit on a board or something to help others. Whether that's a paid gig, an unpaid gig, working through an organization or just doing something for yourself. Maybe you want to write a book. I don't know. There's so many freaking options that we can do to layer on what we're already doing and expand and think about what our next chapter is. I'm 54 and 2 years ago, it's probably actually before 2 years ago, but I think 2 years ago is when I really got up the nerve to start showing up on LinkedIn. I knew that this is time for me to act and time for me to start planning. I hadn't left my job. I wasn't going to be leaving my job in that moment, but I knew that showing up on LinkedIn was going to help me. And so, hey, I'm Trisha Edwards. I'll give you just a quick rundown of me. I trained as a fashion designer. I worked for corporations doing fashion design and different aspects of fashion design for quite some time. And then I've had my own companies. I've gone into higher education where not only was I a professor, I helped manage degrees and really worked and mentored students for years. It was a creative college, so I'm very familiar with creative people. But one of the things that I find is there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily realize how creative they really are because they call it something different, which is totally okay. And I have my big ultimate vision, but it's more of like a 15-year plan versus a quick win 3 months from now. I'm not into the hustle of any sort. I'm into how do I create my life and plan my next phase of where I'm heading. And this 15-year plan is about bringing a bunch of creatives together. Like I said, creatives and those appreciators of creativity and those people who are creative but don't call themselves that, bringing them together to create some things that are not tied to budgets or having to fit into somebody's product mold, sort of thing. It's a different way of kind of thinking. But one of the things that I do know from the people who are in my world, the students that I've mentored, people that I've worked with in a coaching capacity one-on-one, and just people I know, they have a lot of similarities to me, which, like attracts like, right? So that's really no big surprise. And that we have so much crap piled on top of us that it's hard for us to get to our pure expression or to not be colored or limited by something, that texture, that tone that's hanging over us. And we think we can't rise above it because for whatever reason, it doesn't matter what the reason is. So I knew that there was going to be something about getting into ourselves. And I use, in my work that I do with people, we do nervous system balancing or nourishing, or sometimes I call it emotional safety that we're building. We'll do energy resets. Or the other thing that I'm really love, if you subscribe to my channel, you already know this. I am in love with human design. I've been studying it deeply for a year and a half now. I have found so many insights. It's a wonderful tool to be able to see yourself. And then, of course, creativity has always been a part of everything that I ever do. I've always considered myself to be a creator. And I take what we can do with imagination to unlimit ourselves. And so I kind of blend all of those things together. But so let me show you this LinkedIn post, because I think it kind of gives, maybe you'll see yourself in this. And I don't believe that all content has to be there to sell something. I'm actually much more interested in the experiencing and seeing what I resonate with. And because I'm not in this for the material world. And when I say that, that means not for, that's not my personal goal, but also it's not the goal when I'm looking for people I want to connect with. I work with people. There's people I hire so that they can help me continue to grow. And none of it is about material gain. And there's so much content, especially on LinkedIn, that's all tied towards making a certain amount of money each month, making, now I'll get your leads to convert. And it's all about all that stuff. But I just think, oh my gosh, what happens before you even put that content out? Are you creating something? Are you building something that you even connect with, that you actually really want? And I have taken so many routes as I've come through this path. And yeah, I got sucked into things and knowing it's not what I wanted, but I thought, but this is what it means to be in business, right? So this is kind of what I got to do. So let me just read this, and maybe this will connect with you, give you some inspiration, because not everybody out on either LinkedIn, or I just think in the world in general, is just all about sales and how much recurring revenue you have per month. But sometimes it feels like that because there's so much noise about that everywhere. So here's my post, and down at the, maybe I should start off with, this was my image that I put with it, and I almost didn't. All right. The first time I posted on LinkedIn, and I almost didn't, it was the spring of 2023. I was employed with a fancy title and a role that others trusted, and I trusted myself too. Completely, 100%. I knew exactly how to do my job and do it well and grow within it. I had an idea of what I would pursue next, not completely thought out, but I knew visibility on LinkedIn was needed, an asset that would support where I was heading. Writing those first posts were brutal. What would my coworkers think? What about this is actually helping me? What if no one comments? That'd be humiliating. I can't tell you. There's probably like 25 more easily right off the top of my head that I could list in here. I limited it to 3 for the post, but so many things. But the one thing that was connecting all of them was external. They were all about what somebody else would think, or how would I feel because of not getting enough comments or something on there, and I was never looking at myself. And so much of the guidance, especially at that time in 2023, and how do you come to LinkedIn and how do you have a successful growth experience, whether that was through number of followers or dollars that you would make, they were all externally validated, every single thing. And I guess my timing was a little bit off because I was like, that's not how I think, but everybody else thinks this way. So therefore I must be the one who's wrong. And I probably wasn't the only one on LinkedIn at the time that had that and got sucked into that. But I didn't know those other people. So it wasn't really until I started doing things my way that I really started to find those other people. It took me a while. I had a long, spinny, topsy-turvy, hurdles, you name it, kind of journey. So yeah, I felt confident at work. I taught classes of 150 plus students. I pitched and landed industry partner deals. So why did the icks? Why all the icks before you post? Sharing on LinkedIn felt different. Like those dreams when you're only wearing your birthday suit. So many of those. They started actually reoccurring for me. I had them as a kid and then I didn't have them. And then when I started to think about posting on LinkedIn, I started having them again. And right there, that's just your anxiety dream, right? Yet my passion for ushering in my next era persisted. I knew something was coming for me. I had a whisper of what I wanted to build. It had breath and shape, but not full form. So I wrote, mostly badly, at first with templates, and they're not as easy as they say, then with hesitation, which was a very nice way to say I got stuck a lot. It was not uncommon for me to stare at a blank screen for an hour before juices started going. And that was such a shock to me because as a creative, I can always start my creativity. And I wasn't confident in writing in general. That was not something I thought that I was good at unless it was instructional writing. So that was another thing that I was overcoming. But it was a struggle, and it was such a shock to me because that's not normally how I was in this world, right? So I'm 54, so I would have been 52 at the time. I, kind of got to know myself over the time. It was awkward jitters of plug your nose and click. The deeper desire wasn't for the perfect post. It was for expression, for clarity, for courage. I came here to write so I could find more of me, so I could step into the next era of me. With body-led and nervous system work, I created emotional safety so I could express. So we're jumping forward where I figured out how to bring my creativity and everything that I had been doing. I've been doing this body-led work for a while for expression for my art. And when I started doing that, I actually started selling art pieces, which I had never sold before. So I started to be able to figure out how I could work with this. And that's when my voice took root. I took the long road to get there, almost a year, because while I had some great templates and guidance, what I didn't have was the self-confidence. Oh my gosh, that was such a weird experience because everything outside of LinkedIn, all other aspects of my life, in my relationship with my husband, my role as being mom to my son, working, being a family member with my family outside of my husband and son, in groups that I'm in, I always had confidence. And I came to LinkedIn and I freaked out. I didn't have the inner trust, and so I questioned everything. I looked toward external validation when all I needed was my own. And I'm curious, if you are on LinkedIn, what helped you to feel ready to post for the first time? And if you're in the middle of that decision, I would also be curious, what's the feeling inside that's asking to be heard? And, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm active. I'm there almost every day, or at least Monday through Friday most weeks. Sometimes I take a week off because that's my rhythm and I honor it. And so I'm going to drop my contact here and send me a DM, send me a connection request if something here, resonated with you. And you can subscribe to the channel because I talk a lot about this. And I'm looking for more people in my world who get it, who are not looking for those quick fix, those hustles. And anything they do, they want to feel like themselves while you do it.